Okay, so welcome back to the week 5 of this course. So we are already done by one third of the course is already over. So because it's a 12-week course, we have finished week 4. We are now in week 5. So we'll start the week 5 material. And if you have, if you remember from that previous week that we were talking about waste collection, we were talking about the transport, we were talking about the segregation. So we'll continue doing that because there was some discussion left in that particular material, and then we will go towards landfill disposal. If you go back and look at the course outline, we have landfill disposal. We'll talk less in landfill disposal, then we'll talk more actually about anaerobic digestion, composting, waste to energy, and those treatment technologies. So let's get started. So we were talking about in terms of how to calculate how much waste is produced. So this is kind of the last set of discussion we were having in the previous module, that if you have to calculate how much waste is produced, how we'll do that? Because remember, we have to know how much waste is produced, then only we can design the transportation system for it. We can design the collection system for it. So one of the basic component in terms of whenever you go for designing of an integrated waste management plan or designing of the whole integrated waste management system, one of the basic thing you need to know is how much is the total waste produced and what is the composition of waste. And again, the composition of waste, especially in Indian context as of today, since waste gets collected from our houses, goes to the primary collection centers, which is on the side of the road, and then from there it goes maybe to a secondary collection, or then finally to the landfill or dump site or wherever. So in between there are some of the organic waste may decompose, especially in the hot climate. Some organic waste may be eaten away by the animals. Some of these recyclables which is still left, although most of the recyclables are managed through the kabadiwalas in India, but or the like the people who come to your house to buy those recyclables. But in case if any recyclable is left in the waste stream, that gets picked up by the rack pickers and at these collection centers. So if again if I have said that in the past several times, I think I'll again say it one more time, and that waste composition, you have to know the waste composition of the point that you are targeting for any sort of treatment. What I'm trying to say is that, say if we want to do a composting plant, or if we want to set up an anaerobic digestion plant, and if we take the amount of food waste that is produced at individual houses, but we don't have a separate collection of food waste, everything gets mixed up, and then then things gets eaten up by the animal, part of it gets decomposed along the way. So by the time the waste really comes to the dump site today, it may not have that much of a compostable material, because part of it is gone, or sometimes even most of it may be gone. The same thing on the recycling sector. So many of this stuff may not be available because they have been taken away from the by the rack pickers. So we need to really be careful about in terms of the waste composition, and waste composition along the length, like how it changes from the houses to the primary collection center to the secondary collection center and finally to the dump site. So that we need to understand that as well. So to understand one of these basic concept of how much waste is produced, one of the thing you can do is a material mass balance. What is a material mass balance? Here, as you can see over in this particular sketch that we are trying to explain here, so you can look at the rate of accumulation, which is rate of accumulation of a material within a system boundary. Now the system boundary could be, say if you are trying to design an integrated waste management plan for your city, which could be any city. Say if you are if you are taking this course from Bhopal or Nagpur or Mumbai or even like Delhi or any Kolkata, any place you are. So if you are interested in that particular city, so that becomes your system boundary. The city boundary becomes the system boundary. So rate of accumulation of the material within the city boundary is whatever is the rate of material coming into the system minus rate of the material going out of the system, plus if there is any waste being produced within the system boundary itself. So it's like a mass balance. Remember we do a lot of mass balance equation where you have an input, you have an output, then there is a reaction and so in sync. So similar concept here. So whatever is the rate of accumulation of material is rate of material coming into the system, rate of the material going out of the system, and then whatever is the rate of material being generated within the system itself. So that so here is a negative sign, which is the output. This is the input, this is the output, and this could be some of the reaction happening within the system. So simple mass balance concept, and with this mass balance concept you can calculate how much waste is being produced. And then again, your system boundary could be if you are doing it for an industry, your system boundary could be the manufacturing facilities. If you're worried about a landfill site, how much waste will come to the landfill site, system boundary could be our landfill site. And what it does, it helps us to estimate the waste per ton of product, like among the different products that is made. Especially for the industrial sector, it helps us to find out how much waste is being produced per ton of product. And as a company, I would always like to lower that, isn't it? If I can lower the total amount of waste that is produced per ton of the product, that increases my profit, because I have to manage with less amount of waste, and less amount of waste means less amount of money that I will spend on managing that waste. So this is one way of how you can generate. Let's say material mass balance is the only way to determine the generation and movement of solid waste, and that's actually used quite a bit in terms of estimation of how much waste will be produced, because that is needed when you are trying to go for trying to design of a waste management system. Now, source handling and separation, that's another big thing, like how to handle this waste. Once we know the waste, how much waste is being produced, but waste has different composition. There will be some biodegradable, some are non-biodegradable, some are recyclable, some are could be good in calorific value. And so most of the cities around the world today, many countries around the world today, wherever they are trying to do some sort of I would say modern waste management system, what they try to go for is at least two-way separation, wet and dry. Wet and dry, which wet is essentially your organic, mostly organic fraction, something which is wet. Food waste will be the predominant in terms of when you're talking about residences, municipal solid waste. So you have this like a wet waste, and then you have a dry waste. So this is like a source separation. We try to do it source separation. So handling and separation of solid waste is actually very, very important if you can do that. Like if you can handle the waste, handle and separate the waste at source before collection. So if you can have a two-way bin, so like you have one bin and another bin. One bin is for the wet waste, and for the other bin we have a dry waste. So both of them can be collected separately, and both of them can be taken to the wet waste can be taken to an anaerobic digestion plant, or could go to a composting plant. And the dry waste, it can if it's potentially it will go either to a waste to energy plant or to a landfill, but in between it can go to a MRF, or just for the removal of any recyclables is still left there. So many times even your waste to energy plant may have a little bit of MRF, and people can take out some of the recyclables, especially the ones which doesn't have good calorific value, like if you have a metal, if you have glass, those things could be taken out as well. So for all of these source handling and separation, when you are trying to do a source separation, it actually requires a lot of education. So that's one of the things, like when you are trying to if you are a waste operator, if you are from a city, if taking this course from any city who is managing the waste for the city, I think you will appreciate the fact that a lot of education is required. It's very difficult to get people to start behaving the way we want them to behave in terms of the waste management. There has been, like we did a study a few years back, not in India, but it was when I was in US, and even we had a three-way bin. I will show you, like essentially we had a three-way bin. So it's this kind of box with three compartments and openings here for each compartment, and this was your food waste. This was for recyclable, and this is what can go to a landfill, like non-recyclable, non-food waste. And we had this bin, all three are like just next to each other. And we had this cart sitting in an elementary school, like a primary school, in a secondary school, at a university setting. And then we looked at the data and how the waste is being collected. You may be surprised what we found, that actually in elementary school kids did much better. In elementary school, we did not see any recyclables showing up in this landfill compartment, while in a university setting we almost saw 23%, like 21 to 23% of the waste showing up, recyclable showing up in the landfill bin, even when you are saying that recyclable bin is right next to it. So it's people just doesn't have to travel extra to go to the recycle bin, but it's still people were messing up. They were mixing up non-recyclables with recyclables and things which can go. So this is, again, lots and lots of education is needed. And I'm talking about a university. University, most you will expect people to behave much better. But I don't know, maybe they have some other priorities. They have some other things going on in their life, so they are not that focused. And but in elementary school, we found much better results. Actually, very, very low amount of stuff coming to. Although we did had a lot of flyer, we distributed to the. There was stickers on all these boxes where it tells what exactly should go here, what exactly should go there, and then we had a big poster next to this on the wall, which was telling them what to do, how to do this separation. So all those information was provided, and it was mostly pictorial, so that even people at the elementary school level can understand it. And of course, their teachers must have helped them to at least in the beginning. But this is even in a what I was trying to say, that even in a university setting, we were having a hard time getting people to separate the waste. And you go to any country. In Amsterdam, for example, Amsterdam does a very good job in terms of the waste management. But when you talk to the people working in the waste management for the city of Amsterdam, they will tell you that the high-rises building, it's very difficult to get source-separated garbage from there. Although they would like to have it, but it was very difficult. And then this, in any city, for example, like if we set up a very good waste collection with a nice like a wet waste, dry waste collection and everything happening, for example, in our IIT Kharagpur campus, but every year we'll have a new people coming into the campus. So we need to educate them. So the education will be a continuous process. Most of the cities in the world which has a very good waste management system, they have a team of at least few people dedicated just on educating the mass in terms of source separation, why it is important, what it is to be done, how much money it saves to the city, and so that people are aware. Once you make people aware, once you get people on board, this program can work. That's the difference. If you remember from in the beginning, I said in terms of solid waste management, other than say water, wastewater, or air, here we actually are dealing with people on day-to-day basis. How your system will work depends on what sort of input you will get from individual houses. So that's why there is a lot of people interaction here. So we need to make sure people understand what we are trying to do and how they can help with that. So in terms of here, it requires a lot of ongoing education program for homeowners to keep current on what is separated and what is not, what is we are doing the separation. And you can separate recyclables, there is a lot of, I showed you some pictures as well where you had the blue box, orange box and all those programs. Separating compostable material, that's our wet and dry separation. Usually wet and dry we do try to separate organics, and that's happening many places in the world. Even Municipal Solid Waste Management Rules 2016, which we just covered in the last week, you saw that it requires us to do wet and dry separation. So wet waste has to be separated. So that's the separating of the compostable material. And then you can, if you have an individual house, you can even operate a backyard composter. That might be a good idea to do that. Many people do that as well. Recently, I was visiting Canada, and just a few weeks back, and there also I saw that even in Canadian climate, which is not that warm as we know, but it's still there. I visited one of my I would say friend's house, and he has a backyard composter. He would be able to make backyard compost and can use it on his like flower bed and some of the vegetable garden that he was doing. So that it can be done. You can make your own compost, and there are lots of initiatives like that from Delhi. Right now in Bhubaneswar, a lot of work is going on in this area. So people are doing some stuff, but again, in big high rises building, you can make compost. If you start making compost every day, you can use certain amount of compost, but after that what? After that you need to kind of find a place for the compost. And then you can separate and dispose of a reusable product. If they have a reusable product, that can be separated. And household hazardous waste. As we were talking about in our municipal solid waste management rule, it requires us to keep this household hazardous waste separate, and it says that it should be collected separately. So once these rules are implemented, I anticipate that we'll have something like a household hazardous waste collected maybe every 3 months, or I don't think it requires to be collected every month. Probably every 3 months or every 6 months might be good enough. Or we can have a drop-off point where people can bring it and drop it off, and they can show their driver license and do that like they do in the Western world. So there's those how it could be kind of pretty much managed in terms of source handling and separation. So once we have these things done, now we know, if you remember from the very beginning, we were talking about how to know the amount of waste, how to know what is the characteristics of waste, what is the composition of waste. Then, so we have covered that material so already. In the first week we did a big overview, and then we started going into details. So in terms of details, other than the rules, regulation, smart city, Swachh Bharat, we've covered how to find out what is the total amount of waste a city would produce. Then we also looked at in terms of the physical chemical characteristics of the waste, whether it's a biodegradable, calorific value, and those kind of things. We talked about that. We also in this particular chapter last week and right now we have been discussing about how to do source separation and all those stuff associated with that. So total amount of waste has been we know that. We know the composition of waste, we know how to do the source separation. Next thing is how to collect it, isn't it? So once we have this waste now ready to be collected and to be taken to the waste treatment facility or to the disposal facility, so how to do this collection system? So for the collection system, it's a very simple, think about that. Say if I have to do a collection system for Kharagpur town or whatever town you are sitting right now, if watching this video. So first of all, you need to know, okay, how much number of vehicles are required, isn't it? Determining the number of vehicles. So that's one of the foremost is what is the total number of vehicles I need, and that could be, and that will depend on what? That will depend on the waste that is being produced and what kind of vehicle it is. If it's nowadays many of these newer vehicles, which I showed you some pictures, they have a compression inside as well, and that helps to keep the garbage, more garbage can be collected. And so once is the number of vehicle, and for that we also need to determine the vehicle time on the route. So every vehicle will have a certain route. It will go around and collect the garbage and then go to the disposal center or go to the treatment center, unload the garbage, come back, do that routing again. So we also have to do what is known as the routing. And routing it's very similar to routing that you would do for your Flipkart or Amazon or Snapdeal. Say if you buy a product, it moves from one place to another place. So it moves, so there is a route, there is like a travel associated with that. Here we are talking about movement of garbage from one place to another place. It's the same thing. It's rather than so waste is has to be transported. So the route has to be optimized so that we have like it can reach quickly at the same time with a like less amount of resources. So that's optimization, route optimization, linear algebra, operation research. All those concepts hold good here. So those of you, if any of you who is taking this course and you may not be that much into like looking at the garbage composition and all that, but you are kind of a little bit on the side of you're good at math, you want to work with computers, even you can contribute in the waste management sector by coming up with a better design of the collection system. If you remember in the very beginning, in one of the initial videos, I said collection system is actually nearly 60% of the waste management cost goes in the collection system. So if you can come up with a better collection, if you can come up with a better route management, so that if you reduce even one truck, and one truck is the newer one, the really fancier one, if we try to get that, it will be something around $250,000. So even the normal ones that were being used in India would be at least several lakhs. So for that, even if we save that money, so if we can reduce at least one truck, and and that we can use that money for something else. So maybe for the education, to have better recycling system. So those things can be done. So that's why routing is very important. We'll talk about some of this routing stuff as well in our class right now. So for the collection of solid waste, its collection of unseparated waste is, if you don't separate it, it becomes like a little bit a lot of co-mingling of the garbage, which combines residential, commercial, institutional, industrial. If all of these are combined, there is a lot of like you are getting a unseparated waste, and it becomes more, as development becomes more diffuse, like if you are more and more suburbs coming up, total waste quantity also increase, because the waste is coming from home, probably like individual houses, apartment buildings, several facilities, commercial places, malls, small and big malls, shopping areas, vegetable market, regular market, and all those different places the waste coming up. Parks, even in vacant lots, you will have waste there as well. So the waste can come from variety of locations. So, and then as city grows and goes kind of more into suburbs, now you have to kind of serve more and more area. So that's also becomes, you're going from the center of the city, you're going into the suburbs. That means you need to cover a bigger area. So that also logistics of collection becomes more complex. So, and as I said, it nearly 50 to 70% of the solid waste budget in the US were spent in collection phase. Just a couple of years back, I was talking with New Delhi Municipal Corporation folks, and they said their estimate was nearly around 60%, 55 to 60% of their cost going into the transportation of collection and transportation of garbage. So that was a major cost they were getting as well. And it's even more costly. It's getting even more costly. More trucks, more collection teams, more complex cities, because the cities are becoming more and more lots and lots of development, and so things are even. And if you are in the older city, narrow lanes, so you need different types of vehicles, because you cannot have a big truck going into the narrow lanes of Varanasi, for example, or if you are from like in Bhagalpur area or any old city you go to. Those narrow lanes, you cannot really have this big trucks going around. So you need to have a smaller vehicle to go around and collect. So there is a lot of, you have to come up with different types of combination. And there cannot be one size fit all solution here. So it depends on which city you are and how your requirement is, you will come up with your collection system. And whether how the waste will be collected, that's also another thing, like whether it should be a door-to-door collection. It's in Indian context, most of the cities we are having door-to-door collection, and so those private housing areas where we have some people coming and picking up garbage from our houses, and then they take it to a collection center, they dump it there, and the truck comes and take it from there. And but there are in terms of collection, there are responsibilities there. Like if you have your bag to the curbside or to the primary collection center, that's your responsibility as a resident. And for bins, again, if you have a bin system, if you put that bin on the curbside, that's again, as a collection resident is required to do that. You can have collection crew do it, but for individual houses, they can go and collect it, but they will charge extra money for it. And then bins back to home. Again, the resident do that. Mechanical bins operated, they get operated by collection crew. So there was issue of also bags versus bins, so whether we should go for a bag system or a bin system. People around the world have kind of decided either way, like some people were on bags earlier, they went to bin, they were on bin earlier, they went to bags. So from time to time people keeps on changing, but overall it can both, either of those two actually works. The problem with the bag system, which I see sometimes a problem, is because of the bag there is a lot of additional plastics now going to this landfill. But if you have a waste to energy plant, this plastics has a good heat value, so that should not be a problem. And then when you will put the, say if you are putting your garbage outside the place for collection, at what time you should put it. So there is some rules and regulations are there for that as well, at around 7 p.m. Before, like if your collection is tomorrow, you put it at around 7 p.m. and then why? Because the animals will come and they should try to tip over the bin, and then you have garbage all over the road and those kind of stuff. Usually, and there are cases of scavengers as well. People will try to come and try to pick up recyclables from there. So those things do happen. Usually we have a one-person vehicle or maybe a multi-person vehicle. One-person vehicle, it will take more time for collection. If you have a multi-person vehicle, it will be quicker. Then multi-person vehicle means more people you have to pay as a salary. So that's you need to understand that as well. So there is basically a trade-off on different type of collection system you try to design for. But again, again, as I said earlier, it depends on what works best in that particular scenario, and how the things will maneuver in terms of around bags, bin, trucks, alleys. So you have to look at based on your logistics to decide in terms of the pickup. Who gets curbside pickup? Usually single residences, duplexes, low-rise apartment, medium-rise apartments, they get a curbside pickup. Curbside pickup is the garbage truck is coming to your house and collecting it. So when I say your house, it could be the individual house, it could be a apartment complex. And you can use a large storage container, like a medium-rise apartment, high-rise apartment. They use a big container for getting the garbage. Commercial off hours, private haulers. So many cities actually are not doing day-to-day collection, like everyday collection as we see in India. In most of the cities in India, wherever there is a collection happening, they happen every day, which is kind of luxury in many parts of the Western world. They don't have everyday collection because it requires a lot of because when you have all these mechanized trucks and other things, it's difficult to have everyday collection. It's basically not practically feasible, like economically feasible. So they have a larger storage container, especially so that the waste gets collected and then it gets hauled away, and like maybe once a week or maybe once in twice in a week, and those what it is done. Storage containers could be big storage containers could be a problem. There have been cases where people will use the school because people have to pay. Remember that bags we were talking about. So people have to buy those bags. So rather than buying those bags as a prepaid bag, what they will do, they will put their garbage in a polythene bag, and while in the morning walk, they go near the school, and the school has a big dumpsters, and they will just dump it there. So those things are also illegal dumping, disposing of incorrect material. Those things are also has been found. So where the waste is placed at the curbside, you can place it in, as I said, place it in the evening. You can also do it in the LA. Some heavy like a very traffic area, for example in New York City, there's a lot of people on the road. You cannot really do, and they don't want waste in front of the tourists. Many tourists come there, so they try to have it collection done in the middle of the night actually to get the waste collected. So there is like in terms of the collection, we'll continue this collection in the next video as well. So again, I'll say that we are kind of already 1/3 of the course is over. I hope you are taking the quiz and then keeping up to date with the material. And discussion board is there for your help. So if you have any questions or anything, feel free to put it on the discussion board. We will be more than happy to respond. And if in case you need to send us an email, you can do that too. But again, I hope you're enjoying this course, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thank you.